Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today we're bringing somebody again out of Utah, home state for me, and where we have home base. It's incredible to see people around you in your peer group, same city, same market circumstances, just really crushing it in life. And so today we have Zack Boothe. He actually started as a window cleaner, decided that it wasn't his passion, and decided to move into real estate. Now, the thing with real estate, there's lots of people who do real estate all over the country, but Zack has a unique message to share, so I'm excited to ask him questions about that and help you see where he fits in and how he can help you. He's going to share an exciting surprise about what he's doing, where you can follow him and learn more about the details of how he does that. But really, he likes real estate, but he really loves coaching and helping people see inside themselves that they're able to accomplish the same things he's done, that he's not special. He just knows how to do it, and he wants to help you know how to do it as well. So thank you so much, Zack, for coming on. I'm excited to ask questions, but more importantly, I'm excited to hear your story. Like, what led you to where you are today, and why are you so passionate about training, coaching, and leading others?
Love it. Well, that's a lot of history. You know, I'm 30. Am I 31 or 30? I don't remember. I think I'm 31. Anyways, I started off, working a lot as a kid. You know, we grew up pretty poor, and working was a requirement. My dad's pretty rough. He grew up with a rough. He's not rough. He grew up in a rough situation, and so he doesn't put up with crap from his kids. And he made sure we worked. And so by the time I was 17, I had a bunch of jobs. I started working when I was 11 in the summers, and I mowed lawns. And then from there, I did finish carpentry and framing, and I worked in a wood mill, running a wood press, and I did taxidermy. I made handcrafted cheese. I had done a bunch of jobs. My junior year in high school, I went to Nova Scotia, Canada, and worked for a summer up there. We were working 80-hour work weeks. I had 2 different gigs up there. And by the time I was done with that, I was done working for other people. My boss up there was pretty tough, and I felt like he would go to the bar and drink and then come back and yell at us if we were working too fast, if he was getting a hourly rate from the customer, or he'd yell at us if we were going too slow and he was getting a fixed cost or a fixed rate for him. It was just a nightmare. I was so sick of working for people. I felt like I worked harder than all my bosses, except for maybe one of them. And I wanted to do my own thing. And so when I was 17, I took some money that I had saved up and bought a truck and my equipment. And my dad had kind of cut me off financially at 16. So really, it was kind of up to me. If I wanted to play basketball, I had to pay for that. If I wanted to, buy a Big Gulp at the gas station, I had to pay for it. And so I started my first business. I went and bought a squeegee, my truck, and whatever I needed to go and wash windows. I had no idea how to wash windows, but I became a window cleaner just because I wanted to do my own thing. And I remember the first bid I did for like $30, and I was like, wow, I can pay for my cell phone bill and my gas. And then I remember the first bid for $100. And then I remember the first day I made $1,000, and then the first day that I made $2,000. And this is washing windows as a teenager. And then I was high rolling, I was taking to girls on dates, for $100 a plate. And it was great. I was like, wow, like running your own business, this is where it's at, right? And in high school, I was writing my own. I had on my 18th birthday, I went and got my business license, because that's, you have to be 18. So that's what I did for my birthday. And then at that point, I could write off my own work release hours for high school. So I just write how many hours I'd work and then go to the mountains. I had so much freedom my senior year. It was fun. And it was wonderful for nearly a decade. And then something happened where I got sick of it. So it got to the point where the more I grew, the less money I was making. I had up to 13 employees. I had 3 trucks, and that business is still around to this day. I sold it, but I from the outside looking in, I was successful, right? But I was not happy. I was not happy, and I was not having the type of financial success that I wanted. My wife and I were so stressed about money still. I had some debt, and it was just, I was taking risks with my safety, constantly on ladders, constantly doing stupid stuff to make some money. And my shoulder was, my rotator cuff was starting to have major issues from constant motion, scrubbing the glass. And something big happened that really kind of shook me. So my little boy was born, and one of the most beautiful moments of my life. And it still upsets me to this day, but I just kept thinking, how am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to pay these medical bills? Because I had a high deductible, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it all. And instead of enjoying the most beautiful moment, the most special moment of my life, I was focusing on how am I going to pay for this? And I knew something else had to change. I wanted financial freedom. And I just didn't feel like window cleaning could get me there. And that's when I started looking into real estate. So that's kind of what pushed me into it.
So I'm curious, what exactly pushed you from real estate into coaching?
Yeah. So, what happened with real estate, kind of got to tell that story first, is I started reading some books. I paid for a mentor. I paid $10,000 for my first mentor, put most of it on a credit card. I never did a deal. I mean, I tried to get my money back from him. He wouldn't give it back. It was just, I got upset. I gave up for a couple of years. And I thought that, it couldn't be done. And I thought that all these coaches and gurus were just con artists selling a dream. And, it was really upsetting to me. And I had something interesting happen. I was washing for a very wealthy developer, a real estate developer, and talked to him for like 2 hours. He was one of my window cleaning clients. And at the end of the conversation, I was like, wow, I'd love to pick up 2 rentals. And he said, oh, that would be great. I've got these 2 properties that I've had forever. I haven't collected rent in like 4 months because I haven't had time, and the property manager bailed on me. I know they have deferred maintenance. You can buy them from me. And they were 1-acre horse properties, both of them, beautiful houses. And I was like, okay, great. How much? He said $500,000 for both of them. And I was like, well, I'm a window cleaner. I can't get that for that much, And he's like, well, how much down can you give? I was like, well, I'm a window cleaner. I don't have very much. And he's like, well, I'll just basically deed them over to you for like $1,000, couple $1,000, like almost no money down. And I put new tenants in, and he gave them to me at such a good price. I had over $100,000 in equity. And a year and a half after, I ended up selling both those properties for over $100,000 profit. So when I found that seller and I found those deals, it really opened my eyes. It's like, no, it does exist. Like, financial freedom does exist in real estate. I've just got to find the right sellers. I've got to do this. So then it got me excited, right? It lit that fire under me again. Like, this is possible. This isn't just a scam. This isn't just a dream. Like, you can have financial freedom. And so I started listening to more podcasts just like this one. And I started reading books, and I started like getting super excited about it again. Found another mentor. I paid $9,000 on that second mentor, and was worth every penny. Because within a month and a half after that, I found my first wholesale deal. And what that means is I found a motivated seller. Situation of the seller was that it was a very, very successful real estate investor, actually. Him and his partner had over 100 rentals at one point. Their partnership had gone sour, and it was their last rental that they were holding. And they just wanted to be done with it. Right. And so they're like, yeah, Zach, we like it. We'll give it to you. $80,000 is the purchase price. So I put it under contract at $80,000. I didn't have $80,000, but what I did have is a large number of investors that I had networked with. And I had that contract, which was assignable. There was a paragraph in there that allowed me to sell the contract. So then I reached out to some of these cash buyers, some of these other investors, and someone paid me $10,000 for the purchase contract. So I put $10,000 in my pocket in a few hours of work just by finding the seller. And from there, it just started snowballing. right? That first year from April 2017 to the end of the year, we did about $115,000 in income just selling contracts, right? I had walked away from window cleaning, said, I'm going full time in this. This is what I'm going to do. This is going to give me financial freedom. This is going to change my life. Then I found a new technique that really helped me find a lot of sellers. And I'll talk a little bit about that if you want to know. But we did $500,000 that next year. Just my business blew up. And I was blown away. I was like, there's no way I can do more than that the next year. Like, how did I even do that? And like, I went to the bank and I paid off $50,000 worth of debt. Just wrote a check, boom, put it on the counter. Like, life-changing. Bought my wife her dream car, dream truck, paid them off. Just I had financial freedom, but then I was spending so much more time with my family. I took my wife to Hawaii. We spent 2 weeks in Hawaii. My wife's from Brazil. We spent a whole entire month for Christmas and New Year's in Brazil with her family. And I got to be with them and be present. And it was life-changing, right? Like, it was the best feeling because I felt like I could be the dad I wanted to be. I could be the husband that I wanted to be. I felt like I was providing like I always had wanted to provide. It wasn't working any harder than I ever was before, but I found something and learned something that really made the big difference in my life. And so what pushed me into coaching, it was 100% kind of by accident. And so at the end of that year, I read I got invited to do a self-help journal with a good friend of mine. It's called Living Your Best Year Ever by Darren Hardy. In the first 100 pages, it goes through creating 3 big goals for you for that next 12 months. And one of those 3 big goals for me was a financial goal. And the big goal that I created was I wanted to do $1 million in 12 months, right, in my business. And in there, it said you had to give away whatever you wanted to receive. So if you wanted more love, you had to give more love. If you wanted more money, you had to give the money. So I had to give away $1 million, but I didn't have $1 million, right? Because I had spent it all on vacations and everything else, right? So I was like, how do I give away $1 million? And so I wanted to take this seriously. And I was like, how do I do it? I was like, you know what? I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to find 10 people. I'm going to tell them that I'm now your coach and you're going to implement my marketing system. And we're going to put $1 million in your guys' businesses in the next 12 months. I'm going to mentor you. We're going to make this happen. Right? So I bring these students in. One of those first students, his first deal was $113,000. Quit his job, full-time real estate investor now. His name's Scott Dallinger. Crushing it, right? Michael McLeish, crushing it in South Carolina. So these new students are just making all this money. And the craziest thing ever happened. The more that I taught, the more that I learned. The more that I taught, the more questions that I got. The more questions that I got, the more I evaluated my own business and tweaked my system. At the end of that year, we did $1.2 million in my business. I was freaking blown away. I was like, how did that even happen? And then, and I built a team, and I had these students that meant more to me than the $1.2 million. Like, I fell in love with helping people, because what happens is, like, that first deal where you make 10, 20, 30 grand, like, you just want to like hold that check up and tell everyone, it's like, man, this wasn't that hard. You guys can do this. Like, it's the best feeling ever. Right. And it's life-changing for your family, but you don't remember your 3rd, 4th, 5th deal. It's just a business transaction at that point. Right. But whenever you help a student do their first deal and they get to quit their jobs and they get to pay off their debts, and they get to start living the life of their dreams, that is my purpose. Like, that is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like, that's what I want to be able to, when I die, to be able to go, like, this was my purpose. I was able to help people have financial freedom and time freedom, that they could leave the job that they hate and actually go for what they wanted. So that's why I became a coach. And it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Awesome. No, I love it. So I'm gonna draw a few things out. Thanks for finishing that story for us, because I think that's where everybody's headed, right? Everybody wants to live that life of, finally get to go do the things they want, not have to be making their decisions off money. So I want you to define a few things for me. So when you say you grew up poor, like, paint me a picture of what poor looks like in your house.
Deer steak and baked potatoes, brother.
Okay, but so that, for some people though, you have to realize, some people, they think that's really a nice thing. Right.
I shouldn't be so.
I understand we want to sometimes distance ourselves from it because it's painful. But like, describe for me, paint this picture. If I was your brother and I had somehow forgotten what happened. Like, hey, do you remember this experience? Like, this is what poverty or poor looks like. You don't want to go back there. Let's go make some money, right? What is that conversation? How are you painting this picture for, hey, this is poor. This is where this is my lowest of lows. This is where I came from. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I do know that many people have and had much less than I did as a kid, right? I don't want to sound ungrateful. I served a mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I saw poverty like I had never imagined existed. The first time I walked through a ghetto, I cried. And I felt terrible for ever feeling like I didn't have enough, right? I want you guys to understand that I do recognize that there's many people worse off than me, and that's why I do what I do. But growing up, I didn't know what name brand clothing was. I remember when I was playing high school basketball, I had to pay for my own shoes, right? And so I only had one pair of shoes, and they stank, and they were ugly, and they were beat up, right? But I didn't want to spend my money on more shoes, and I got made fun of for having the same pair of shoes. And my dad had a lawn mowing business that all of us, including my older brothers, we'd work for after school. Like, that's what I did. I got home from school from the time I was 11, we'd go mow lawns. And, our highlight is when one of the jazz players would drive by when we were mowing lawns up above the Capitol, and mm-hmm. My parents did a good job of taking us out to the mountains and enjoying fun time together. But, that's kind of how they paid for it is all of us working on that business together. And, my parents are hard workers, and they've done very well for themselves now. But my dad started off, he's been at the same company his whole life. He started off at $3 an hour. Right. And my mom was waiting tables and going to school as I was growing up. She was trying to become a nurse, and she became a nurse when I was a teenager. Right. So then they had the school debts to pay off of. And now they're doing really well because they've worked hard for a lot of years. And I'm very proud of them, and I really respect them for their efforts. But, for us, it was pretty simple. I didn't realize that people had money to buy ranches. I didn't know that existed. It wasn't until I started getting into investing that I started seeing people like truly buying what they want and doing what they want. And it wasn't like, having a budget for their groceries. Like, hey, we can't eat that because we've only got $30 this week to spend. It was just, it was a simple life, a simple middle class life. And I think a lot of people, they can relate to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I wanted you to describe it, because it's one thing that's interesting. So I studied neuropsychology in college, right? I ended up going into finance because of what my ultimate purpose is. But one thing that I think people need to recognize is your experience of your life, whatever it is that's going on right now, that's your experience, and you can describe that however you want, right? And if it serves you to describe your previous life or your growing up as poor, then that's fine, right? And it's okay to recognize, because I would describe my childhood as poor as well. My parents were Pizza Hut drivers, 11 kids. I'm the 7th of 11. I actually, like, not that we're comparing, right? But I got my first full-time job when I was 11 years old in a honey extracting plant. So we both started working there pretty young. But when I wanted to play sports at 6 years old, I had to go out and mow lawns. And the lawnmower, I don't know if you'd have to look this up almost. It was an old snapper lawnmower. So metal, the grass shoots right out the back, and it's a big hole. It's not like these small holes you have now with a flap. There was no flap. You hang a bag on it, but we didn't have the bag. So I'd be pushing this mower at 6 years old, and the grass would just be spraying in your face because there was nothing to stop the grass. Mm-hmm. And got your gas tank on top of it, and you push this up and down the street hoping some nice old woman or old man is going to let you cut their grass, completely botch the job, but give you a few bucks for some effort so you can go get, for me, it was soccer cleats because that's what I wanted to play, but it doesn't matter. Everybody's situation is different and unique, and it's your experience, right? There doesn't need to be a comparison of, well, I'm not as poor as the people in Africa, or I'm not as poor as the people in, you're also the richest person there probably has a worse life than you still. Yeah, right. And guess what? They're the wealthiest. They're the top 1% in their society, and they feel like they are top of the world, right? So it's all perspective, and so important to recognize that, because we need to use that as fuel to get out. Now I'm curious, and again, you don't have to use names, and if your family doesn't want to, but I'm curious, this is your perspective now, and you've made it big. Your parents, they've kind of survived long enough to be in a good financial position. What did your other siblings walk away with? What's their perspective on life? Are they stuck there, middle class, thinking that that's the way life has to be? Or were they able to break free from that and really see that they could make something of their life as well?
This is great questions. These are things I've been on a lot of podcasts and I've never really talked about this personal. Your questions are fantastic. This is a little uncomfortable for me, which is great, right? That's what we're going for. We're trying to.
I'm going for it, man.
So none of my siblings have started businesses. None of them. None of them are way into investing. Some of them have like a 401k. A lot of them, when they talk about me, I believe a lot of them say things like, "Oh, he was just born differently. Oh, he was just born with more motivation." They kind of just write it off as like, "Oh, he didn't have to work. It just came natural to him." You know what I mean? Like kind of just, I think they kind of just say that so they can write off having to push themselves too. I don't really know what they think of me. Man, you really caught me off guard with that question, man. That's great. I don't know. Maybe we should have my siblings on here and we'd be like, what do you think of Zach?
Yeah. The reason I ask, right? I asked this question from a position of knowing. Okay. I've got 11 siblings and we don't need to go into the details of everybody's life, but everybody came out of our childhood very differently. Some people came out as entrepreneurs. Some people have come out as like, hey, we want some safety and security. Some people, like some of the siblings, have come out having, due to our childhood. And again, by the way, I want to be absolutely clear here. I love and respect all my family, and there's no judgment or condemnation of saying, hey, that's a bad opinion or bad perspective. It's different than mine, but I'm not at all saying that it's bad or wrong, right? I think that people need to honor where they're at in their journey, and I try and honor them in their journey, and I hope that they honor me in mine. That being said, I know that there's people in my family who don't necessarily love or think the way I think. There's people who don't necessarily like what I do for work. They have their opinions about what I do and how I make my money, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But we all do end up in different situations, and often, and this is not a personal thing, because the reality is Zach could probably still turn this thought and put himself in his shoes, right? There's probably people, and I'm curious, you're gonna have to answer this question after, that he still looks at and says, I just don't know how they do that. How do they get that much money, right? When we look at Bezos, right, you could be making $100 million a year and thinking you're killing it, but then you look at Bezos and he's a trillionaire and you're like, I just don't know. Like, he's got to be doing something screwed up to make that much money, right? Like, there's just no way that doing what I'm doing, I can get that much money, right? So we're still, this mentality, it doesn't ever really go away, other than there gets to be a point where instead of saying they're bad and wrong for doing that, or it's just not me, we start asking questions, how can it be me? Right? So I think the question's different, but there's always going to be a recognition of somebody's way farther ahead than I am financially. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing to recognize. But a lot of people, and there's a book called The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson, and this really outlines the natural state of wanting to protect ourselves from a psychological perspective. When we see somebody doing something that we're unwilling to do, it's easier to justify that and separate ourselves and say they're different than us than to say, no, they're exactly the same. They came from the same place, and their success means that I could have success as well. Most people see their success as, oh, I'm different, because then they don't have to change. They want to stay in their comfortable little bubble rather than saying, man, if he can do it, I should be able to do it too. How can I do that?
Yeah.
Right. And it's a distinction that I want to point out, because we all do it in our lives, right? Zach, myself, nobody's different in this regard. We all have these thoughts. And the sooner we recognize the thoughts and are conscious that, hey, I just had that thought of saying they can do it, but not me, as soon as we recognize that we had that thought, then we can say, well, no, that's not true. How can I do it, right? I bring this up in this really uncomfortable position for Zach, because I want to highlight this as an opportunity for all of us to grow and become more conscious of where are we excluding ourselves from something that rightfully is ours if we work for it. Like, where are we saying we can't do that because of, rather than saying, how can I do that?
Love it.
Right.
It's really cool that you share that, because I've kind of seen that not just from family, but from friends, that they see me accomplish a task and they see me accomplish the next goal and the next goal. And I'm not saying that my goals, everyone should have my same goals, but they see me accomplish a goal and they just say that I'm different. Right. And it's not just financial goals. Mm-hmm. And, I see people around me say, that knew me growing up, they say, oh, well, Zach's just different. And I've always thought that maybe that's just what they tell themselves to be okay with not going for their dreams. But I can't remember where I read it. When you, for the audience, right? Sure. If you have any feelings of envy when you see someone accomplish something, there is a part of you that wants it. And if you want it, you should go for it, right? You should be willing to fail at going for it. There's so many people in this world that I know want something, but they tell themselves that they're just not capable, they're not qualified, they don't have the personality type. They make all these excuses to allow themselves to be okay with not getting out of their comfort zone. I want everyone to know that none of this was comfortable. None of it. There was many nights that I cried and sobbed and felt like a loser. And there's still moments that I do. And there's still moments that I feel a massive amount of pressure and feel like I'm inadequate and I'm not capable. I feel that all the time. I mean, is this going to be on YouTube as well?
It will be. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're all watching this on YouTube, you see a big old cold sore right here. See this cold sore? This is caused by stress. I still get stressed. I still feel, overwhelmed and beat up. And so it's okay to feel that. But the problem is when we make excuses to keep us from going what we want to go for. My siblings, many of them have zero interest to be entrepreneurs, and that's fine. I'm not saying they should be entrepreneurs. I'm not saying that my friends should be entrepreneurs. I'm not saying that the people I care for should be. I don't want to talk about my siblings that much because they're their own people. I don't know them intimately, right? I truly don't. I love them and we spend lots of time together and I love them, but I can talk about, let's talk more about my wife, right? And her journey. This is a great example. So my wife, we have 2 beautiful children. And my wife's been unhappy, and she shared this on her new YouTube channel that she's had some problems and some emotional problems, and she started going to a therapist, right? And there was a lot of these limiting beliefs that she had that kept her from going from her dreams, right? She didn't want to be home every single day, all day with the kids. She had some ambitions and things that she wanted to do. She wanted to be creative. She's an artist. She's a photographer, and she loves it. And, there's certain things within a business that she hates and she has no interest in being a part of, right?
Everybody's that way. There's
certain things, but I believe that we can build our dream lives, right? And so what I was able to do with my wife is we sat down and I said, babe, what do you want out of your dream life? How much money do you want to be producing? What do you want to be doing with your time, right? How much time do you want to spend with your children? What do you want our children to learn? And we came up with this list of things that she wanted, and we're working on building that dream life for her together, right? Because I'm her partner, right? Mm-hmm. I'm intimately involved in her life. And I think that, for us that works. And I think for a lot of the listeners, if you are unsatisfied, write down exactly what you want. Write what you want. It's okay. Because if you put it out there, right? If you actually put it out there, now you can't just say, well, I'm not born for this. Because if you want it, that means that's what you were meant to do. You have this natural desire to do something, right? Whether it was how you were conditioned, whether it was you were born with it, doesn't matter.
So can I ask a question there? Because I've heard this advice, and and I've been challenged because when I've given this advice, sometimes people are like, okay, so you're just fulfilling all of your selfish desires. What if they're bad? What if they're immoral, whatever, all of your wants, you should just write them down. And so I'm curious how you would respond to that type of playing devil's advocate here, but that type of question, like, how do you determine whether it's something you really want and it deserves to be on that list versus like a lot of what we could call them desires of man, for lack of a better word. Like, how do you separate, hey, what do I really want and what's just there because I have weaknesses, or I have, like, people who are addicted, right? People who are addicted to alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever, right? They're going to have things on that list that, like, for all physiological reasons, they want it, almost like they need it, but it's not really need to be on this list. So how do you separate those? I just want to be clear here for the listeners.
Yep. So Tony Robbins really helped me understand this, right? So he talks about there's 6 emotional needs that we all have. We all have all 6 of them, but we all satisfy those emotional needs in different ways. For example, the feeling of significance, that's one of them. Someone may get a feeling of significance by raising their beautiful children and just putting so much time in them, and their children accomplish great things, and they feel this immense amount of pride, and they feel significant because their children are doing great things and impacting society in a wonderful way. Mm-hmm. I think most listeners would see that as a very respectable and a very uplifting way to feel significant, right? Sure. There's another way that certain people feel significant, and it's by abusing other people because they have power over them. They bully, they physically hurt, they harm, they want power, control, right? And they harm other people to feel good about themselves. And I think most of us, right, 99.99% of us would say that is an unhealthy and unfulfilling thing. Right? And so if you are doing things, if you're addicted to pornography, if you're addicted to food, if you're addicted to drugs, what emotional need do you have that you're feeling in a negative way? Right? We do things because we're trying to fill an emotional need. So, for example, you may see someone that completely banishes their children and just goes off and becomes a beach bum and just like does something completely off, right? And we go, why and how could ever someone do something like that? And it's because they're trying to fill an emotional need. And they're doing it in an unhealthy way, of course, because it's causing themselves and people around them long-term harm. Right. And they need a feeling of uncertainty. So you have a need of certainty, which is like you can make sure you can pay the bills and you have a nice place, warm place to sleep, and you feel safe, and like this feeling of certainty. Uncertainty is where you want to travel, you want to have experiences, you want to challenge yourself, you want to feel free, you don't want to feel stuck at the same dead-end job every single day, right? We all have these emotional needs. And so if someone is going to the same monotonous job every single day, and they freaking hate it, and they hate their boss, and they hate their coworkers, they hate what they do, they don't believe in the product, they don't believe in the service, and they go to that same job, and they come home, and they do not like their wife, and they don't get along with their wife, and like everything in their life they're doing, and they're stuck in a religion that they were raised to be raised in, and they were told that's what they're supposed to believe, and every other religion's of the devil, and their whole entire life is controlled by other people and other circumstances. They have no feeling of control of their own life. They have no adventure. They have no uncertainty of, waking up the next day. What is this beautiful day going to bring me today? They don't have any of that. And so they may do something absolutely crazy, like throw it all away. Mm-hmm. Right? And from us looking at the outside in, we say, how the hell could someone do that? Right? And so I think sometimes as people, we're too judgmental. We're too harsh. Right? Because we don't understand the pain that people are going through because they're not having emotional needs met. And sometimes we don't even know that about ourselves. There were so many things when I learned this concept that I was able to overcome. Some things that I was able to overcome because I understood what I was dealing with psychologically. And so we have emotional needs that need to be filled. you see people that are 400 or 500 pounds, extremely obese, and they're hurting. They're at risk of dying. And you think, how could they allow themselves to get to that point? But they may have other things in their lives, psychological imbalances and pain and sadness that they're feeling and covering by eating and having those chemicals released by the brain, right? It's how they're masking that pain. Or they do it with alcohol, or they do it with pornography. They do it with these other things. And so I would say, like, if you have a desire and a need, that's fine, but make sure you're feeling and filling that void with a healthy and constructive plan, right? And evaluate what your actions are and what needs you're filling, and are they going to contribute to your life and to society's life? So,
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. I know what's moral and what's not moral.
Sure. No, I love that. And I think that's a huge section there that maybe re-listen. And if you haven't ever heard of the 6 needs, there's actually tests. I say tests, quizzes, I don't know what to call them. Right. But you can just Google it, right? You can Google, 6 basic human needs, and then you can take a quiz, because maybe you don't know exactly what that is for you. You can take a quiz to help you identify, okay, what are my 2 primary ones? What are my 4 other ones? How am I acting out in these different areas to fulfill these, or they're not getting fulfilled? And how can I build that in to a fulfilling thing for me? And I know this about myself. Uncertainty is like huge on my list. Like if something gets too usual, then I start freaking out. I'm like, okay, I need a break. I need to go do something else. Yep. And so I've built an enormous level of uncertainty into my life, into my business, into certain things. And then there is a lot of certainty that I do like. Like I like certainty, but it's not one of my top 2. For me, it's more of significance. And I would say significance and contribution are maybe equal. And then uncertainty. And uncertainty, I think, is higher than any of them, right? I just do stuff just because I like doing it. I don't like having a schedule. And that kind of harms me sometimes as an entrepreneur when you are so unwilling. And the funny thing is, it's like, well, I don't like having a schedule, so I don't have one. But I have complete control of my schedule. Like it's not like I don't want somebody else to control my life. I can control my life if I want to. I choose to not have a schedule because I don't like one, right? Yeah. Nobody else is forcing me to have a schedule. No, I don't have to bend by anybody else's schedule. I love that I don't have a schedule. My wife doesn't get that opportunity as much. She is a mom and she takes care of the kids at home. And so she sometimes wakes up and like, it's just the same day. It's Groundhog Day over and over and over and over. And so I've had this conversation with my wife as well. How do we help her have her dreams being accomplished at the same time as me accomplishing mine? And how do we do that together where it's actually drawing us closer together rather than farther apart, living 2 separate lives in the same house? How do we still foster our relationship while chasing our separate dreams? So that's
the exact conversation and the exact complaint that my wife was having. It is freaking Groundhog Day. I can't take this anymore.
Yeah. No, so
she felt stuck, right? Because her desires, what she wanted out of life. Remember I said, write down what you want out of life. She wanted her children to be loved and taken care of and grow and learn, right? And with psychology, she learned that she doesn't have to be the one that does absolutely everything to get what she wants in life, that she can pay people or hire people or find people that can help. And so we found a Montessori school that we love. And my wife is so happy because my little girl, it's 2, she'll come home from school and she'll be like, Mom, let me do it. And she'll put it on her own socks. Because that's what she learned that day, right? And it just it melts my wife's heart. And when my wife's with the kids, she's more excited to be with the kids. So she spends more time doing the things that she wants to do with the kids, right? And what I say, write down what you want in life, write down what you want, truly, because you can have it all. You can have your cake and eat it too. This thought process that you have to make sacrifices to get what you want. You can't have a good family and have money. You can't have fulfillment and have money. That's a load of crap. That's the lies we tell ourselves and other people tell you because they are not satisfied with what they have and they're trying to make it okay. But it's not okay. It's not.
Yeah, no, I 1000% agree. And this podcast was not at all what I expected it to turn out when we started. So I'm glad it turned out how it is, though. There's so many other concepts that I wasn't planning on covering, but I'm glad we covered. I want to ask one question. Then we're gonna talk about your kind of surprise, the journey that you're gonna go on here in a second. But I'm curious here. When you say, because you had this interchange with your first real estate investor, your guy who sold you those houses or deeded you over the houses rather, and you said, "Hey, I'm a window washer. I don't really make a lot of money." Right. So from my perspective, that's an identity that you gave yourself, limiting beliefs that you chose to live in. You probably recognize that now.
Yep, I do now. Didn't then.
Okay? But I'm curious, and these are, again, I'm going to ask personal questions because I want you guys to see what's real. Okay. And he can choose whether he answers them or not, but I want you to have this experience. So what was your highest actual family income year that you were living on with window cleaning?
Net, like in my own pocket, probably close to 50,000.
50,000. Okay. So, and that's great. And at that point in time, how many kids did you have? What was your situation? What type of house were you living in? Cars you were driving? Like, I want to paint this picture because I think from my perspective, there's a lot of people who think that they don't have enough money and really they don't know how to manage money. There's a big separation there. So I want to just talk about this for a second. So what did your lifestyle look like at that level of income?
Yeah. So the year before I sold the business, I had a duplex already, that we had done house hacking. So I lived in one half and rented the other half. And that was great because I covered our expenses, but then my son was born. Right. And when my wife was pregnant, we went and bought a single family home because Karen wanted more space. Right. And I would have been living in a trailer to save money if we could, right? Sure. But so we moved into this house, and so I had the mortgage, and then I had the duplex that would kind of cover our expenses on both houses, which was pretty freaking awesome. Yeah. And that was kind of one of the other reasons that I loved the idea of real estate. Like, wow, like there's a lot of freedom with just one duplex. And then I had an old truck. I had, but it was wrapped with my business logo. I mean, it was a work truck. So like if I ever wanted to use it for personal use in the mountains on the weekend, I had to take all the ladders off, take all the crap out of it, and then load all. It just drove me crazy, right? I always wanted a truck. Now I have a truck that's like brand new, and it's always cleaned, like spotless, and I have a blanket for it, and I put it to bed. So then when I go hunting, I like open up the truck and load my gear, and it smells nice, and I go on the road and I like listen to country music, and I'm at peace. And it's like, I don't have like window cleaning shit in my truck. I freaking love this truck, And, and I always had these freaking beater trucks from a window cleaning business, and they were always breaking down. There were these cheap little, I always bought like either Nissan Frontiers or mostly they were little, what were they called? They were a Chevy. They were
Colorados.
They weren't even Colorados. They were before the Colorados. Canyons, yeah. Yeah, dude.
Those were small, cheap trucks. That's for one.
Yeah, that's what I drove with. I put shells on ladder racks, and I had, and then I had, my wife had a little Hyundai Elantra, salvage title. We got it for like $2,000. And then she upgraded to the Sonata, which I actually drive now because my truck stays nice. So I got like a $5,000 V6 Sonata. It's got like 100,000 miles. I actually posted an ad on Facebook, those ads. And it's like, it's the guru with the camera, because that's what I was told. It's like, hey, everybody, I make this much money. Look at me, blah, blah, blah. And someone commented, where's his leather seats? And it's like, bro, my car's like $5,000. Like it's about having money, not looking rich, Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So I still have that car. My wife drives, now she gets to drive she drives a Ford Explorer, one of the newer models. She loves it. So
cool. Yeah. So do you feel like, cause this is a big thing, right? So as people earn their income and a lot of people, they go from a little amount of income and they're surviving, right? Yeah. They could probably, you were even able at that stage to still do some investing. You were still doing some real estate investing. You weren't killing it, but you were doing some investing. And it's possible you could have managed money better. Who knows? But then you go from 50,000 to 100,000 to $1 million, or to 500,000 to $1 million. Like, what's the process? Because I've seen a lot of these real estate and other gurus. Okay, and I'm just going to call them gurus because I that's a respectful term. Just so you know, I'm not saying this like flippantly. Yeah. I respect people who have more knowledge than me, and I look up to them.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who can help people generate income, generate money, but because they never really mastered actually money management, like 101, because it's not taught in our schools really. And a lot of these people, I mean, like over 50% of the millionaires alive today came from poverty, came from not knowing how money works. So it's not like a small percentage. There's a lot of these people who have launched their income and never learned how money works. So now they're making tons of money and they're just haphazardly, they have so much money that it's pretty hard to fail because they can generate so much, but there's still an enormous amount of waste. So how do you help somebody through that and make sure that they're getting proper financial education, taxes, and just general investing knowledge, how money works, on top of the specific skill of real estate that you're teaching them?
Education. So I believe 99% of my success has come from mentors, and when I mean by mentors, podcasts like this, books, and actual coaching and courses and things like that. So I calculated it a little while ago, and I actually have a YouTube video on this, like all of the paid coaching and programs and events and things that I've been to. It's well over $100,000 that I've spent in the last 3 years, well over. And, I've learned, what tax or what entity to run my businesses under to, have a better get a better tax position, right? So I can write some of it off as capital gains and some of it as earned income, not all of it earned income, right? And I've learned about, how to use rentals and properties and depreciate them and show a phantom loss on them. I've learned a lot of these things. And I have a mentor, like a one-on-one mentor that I meet with every other week. And we look at my overall vision of where I'm trying to go and where I'm at with my businesses. And so, it's hasn't been just like oh, wow, now I'm successful. It's a continual adventure, which is fun for me, right? It's continuing to get better at the craft of making sure my family's taken care of financially, and to making sure that I'm perfecting myself and getting better and knowing more about myself and the psychology of myself, and like this Tony Robbins thing I was talking about, and going to events like that and working on myself. And I don't just do that for myself. I do that for my children. You know what I mean? Like to be the dad that they need me to be the mentor and the example that they need me to be, and to be the kind of person that my students need me to be, so that, I can help them through those barriers of, I can't do this, Zach, I give up. I'm just not the kind of person that, I want to be able to help them psychologically, not just with the strategy that works, of course, right? But if someone's so stuck on, I can't be the one that finds success, I have to get them through that beyond just the strategy. So.
No, I completely agree. I love that. And that's something that I spend a lot of time in. Maybe hopefully we can connect after this and see how we can maybe team up and work together. But one of the things that I love about that is to calculate how much you invest in yourself. So many people, they get done with college and they think, whew, done with college, moving on, never going back. The truly wealthy people that I know, it's a never ending. I mean, that 100,000, that's just in the last 3 years. That's not, and that's going to be dwarfed within the next 5, probably. Yes. Because every level up, it's about growing yourself. It's about becoming more yourself, not just about making more money. It's about becoming more yourself. So I want you to talk about this activity that you're going to do, film it, going down to Florida to show other people that this is an absolute, this dream is not just a dream. It's possible. Anybody can do it. Just talk about it. I really want people to hear this and what it is, so they can keep an eye out for it.
Yeah. The other night, this was actually about a year ago that this happened, and I was supposed to go last January, but COVID hit, and I didn't know the risks to the safety of my family, so we just shut it down. But we have plane tickets, Airbnb lined up. We're flying out January 12th. So what happened is I was laying in my bed, and I said, how can I inspire more people? How can I show more people what it takes? How can I show more people that I truly care? And I truly want to help them be financially successful, right? Because it's one thing if I place an ad on Facebook and I say, hey, I can change your life. You only got to pay me $9.97, you know?
Right, exactly.
It's like, anyways, so I was staying up late thinking about it. And I'm like, how do I like inspire? Like, how do I make a difference? And it wasn't about like, how do I make more money? It was like, how do I make a difference? And so I was like, all right, I know exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm flying to Florida. In a market that I've never done a deal, right? And I'm not working there currently. And I'm going to fly there and I'm going to take $1,000 and I'm going to turn it into $40,000 in 40 days. So, and I'm going to have a film crew follow me and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm doing it, right? There's no expense to watch it. It's all going to be on my YouTube channel. And I'm doing this because I want people to see that they can do it as well.
Yeah, I love that because I think that, again, that's a big limiting belief. And there's going to be people who say, oh, well, he had this. Look, anybody can do this. Anybody can make money. It's the biggest, I think it's the biggest lie that we've been told in our country and in the world is that money is hard to get, right? Yep. It's not. And because money is nothing more than an exchange of value. It's nothing less either. It's an exchange of value and you better be exchanging value. Anytime you are getting paid for something or you're not exchanging value, that's a scam, in my opinion, right? Yep. Like you should, as the person offering the value, and this is something my mentor taught me, and I love it. You should feel like you're getting ripped off. If I'm selling something, I should feel like I'm getting ripped off. I should be selling. If I think it's worth $10,000, I should probably sell it for $1,000 or $2,500, right? I should a quarter of what I think it's worth. That's what I should sell it for. And what I would pay for it, right? That's the other thing. Would you pay for it? I've paid, and he talks about his investing, right? I paid $10,000 to go to 3 conferences and spend 2 hours with a multimillionaire and just pick his brain and ask him questions about how to be successful. And that was totally worth it, right? I would go spend $10,000 again for the same thing, right? There's no reason why you wouldn't just like, for me, do that so you can grow. Because it's about growth. It's about becoming more and more every day. And so, yeah, even though it's not very much, that most people would say, what? You had a 2-hour conversation, you went to 2 events and that was worth $10,000 to you? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because that advice that I got in that 2-hour meeting changed my life. So it was absolutely worth it, you know? And so just think about that. So here we're gonna have to move on because we ran out of time. But I really do want people to know, where can they get in touch with you? What's your YouTube channel? If they do want to watch you or just get coaching from you, call you and see if they can be one of your I don't know, students. We'll call them students.
Yeah, they are students. And I consider myself a coach, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's real simple. So I have a website, go to dfdmastery.com. So like driving $4. So dfdmastery.com. In that website, there's a ton of free resources, right? I mean, there's an absolutely free wholesaling course. So remember how I paid $10,000 and then I paid $9,000, right? Everything that I learned about wholesaling, that's how much I had to pay. I paid $19,000. I put together a wholesaling course that teaches all of that stuff and even more. I think that course is way better than both of those courses combined. I have it in there for absolutely free, right? Mm-hmm. Because like, how do I add more value, right? That's my goal. I want to change lives because I know the more I change lives, the better that my life will get, right? And the more fulfilled I'll be as well. So if you go to the free resources tab, there's my free course. There's tons of free content. And there's also links to all my social media that you can follow me. I have a social media tab, my Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel. You can follow me there. I do have paid students. I do coach my students, but I do limit the amount of people that I coach because I'm only one person and I really want to make my students or help my students be successful. I really want to help them through and be their guide, right? So like, for example, all of my students, they get a picture printed out with their name and their market that they're in, and I put them on my office wall. This is just my recording studio. I actually showed you earlier my office, and anyways, they go up on that wall, and my goal is to get them out of my office onto the success wall, right? My goal is to get them more money than they paid me. And so you actually have to apply to become a student. So there's a tab in there, a couple places that says book a call, and you have to fill out a questionnaire and get on a call with my team to make sure that you're a fit for us, because we want to make sure that we're going to be able to be a good fit, right? Because if I'm going to spend time, I want to feel like I can add a ton of value to your life. So that's how you can reach me. My website, dfdmastery.com, and you can find me there.
Sure, and the links will be in the show notes here. Okay, so we're gonna have to skip legacy on rapid fire. We're going straight to the last question here. I love this question. It's really why I do this whole podcast. I think that this is the more we can intentionally be living the life that we want to build. That means we actually get to live our legacy rather than just get to 65 and hope people remember us how we tell them to. That's generally not going to work. So my question for you is, imagine that you've died 6 generations from now. So this is your great, 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 great grandchildren. You get to kind of be a fly on the wall. They're sitting around their dinner table talking about what your life meant, how you impacted society, or how you impacted them. What do you want them to be saying about you 6 generations from now?
So I say this all the time, and maybe this will come across as like, maybe this will rub some people the wrong way, but I want people to say that I gave them the permission to go for their dreams. Right? I'm not saying that you need my permission, but there's certain people in my life that when I wanted to start my first business, they encouraged me, and it kind of gave me permission. Do you know what I mean? Because of like, if this person that I loved and respect said, go for it, it kind of was like, oh yeah, I should go for it. It kind of like gave me that permission that I needed for myself to go for it. Right. And I want my life to be that. I want people to see that, wow, he wanted something, he went for it. Wow, like he showed other people that they could. Look at all those other people that he helped, get them started on their journey. Obviously, I don't do it. They do it themselves, but I'm that guide, right? I want to be that person that says, yes, you can do it. Yes, you are capable. No, that is a limiting belief. You are not dumb, right? You are not incapable of that. So that's the kind of legacy that I want to live, because yes, I can make a ton of money and leave that down to my kids, but money is not what I'm going for. Right? What I'm going for is helping people believe in themselves, because the potential that we have as human beings is much more than most people realize.
That's perfect. And anybody who knows me as an individual, Samuel Knickerbocker, that is exactly word for word. Like he uses different words than I would use, but the end goal is we want to help people have confidence in their ability to chase their dreams. And that's why we have him on this podcast today. I got a lot of requests for people to be on the podcast. And honestly, I turn a lot of people down because it's like, just over the last few months, I've gotten like 30 people who all do real estate investing. It's like, okay, that's great. We need some variety. But I said yes to him because I felt like that was his reason. When I read his bio, that's what I got out of this. And that's why we do this podcast, because we want people to believe in their own ability. It's not about us. It's about how do we help you believe more in your ability, and that you are just like us. We all started without the advantage of knowing it already, right? We are all babies and we all had to learn it. And both him, like me, we both want to help people have the financial confidence to chase their dreams. And yes. The internal confidence.
It would mean a ton to me. It would mean like I'm going to get emotional saying this. Like every time I have a successful student, like I have to shut my door and cry. I really do. Like I'm a big teddy bear. But what I want to say is, if this podcast made you sit down and think and write down what you want out of life, I want to know about it. I want you to private message me through Instagram or through Facebook. Say, Zach, thank you. I'm going for this. This is now my goal. Even if it has absolutely nothing to do with real estate. If you want to go start a dance studio, like I want to know about it. And maybe I'll know someone or a mentor or something that can help you get to your goal. Share that with me. Share that on your Instagram, on your Facebook. Share this podcast and say, because of this podcast, this is my goal. Because if you put it out there, if you put out what your goals, your dreams are, right? People are going to go, wow, like she's going for it. And they may be able to help you. They may be interested in being a part of your journey. So go for it. And I want to know that it's made an impact in your life. I really do. That's why I'm here.
I love that. Thank you for adding that invitation. So that is all we have today, guys. We're going to have to probably have him come back another time because there's just too much to share in an hour. But I love this conversation. Thank you so much for being willing to be vulnerable and go to places that are a little uncomfortable. I understand that. I've been there. But I really want to help people get to know the real Zach and really connect with you so that they can feel comfortable reaching out and seeing that you've been exactly where they are. So, hey, that's where we're going to finish today, and we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.